Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, we're going to continue on a topic that we talked about last week. Half grades. Half grades at grading card companies are a joke. They've always been a joke. The joke got worse a year or two ago when CGC changed their grading scale. If you didn't watch my video from last week, it's linked above. I talked about how PSA grades too easily. I showed with facts and data how and why that was. But let's stay on topic for today's video. I will do further grading videos. I just got back from Chicago Collecticon. Voice is not 100%, but next Monday will be a video on that. And then the following Monday will be something about diving deeper into the grading scales. What is a 10? What does pristine mean? What does gem mint mean? All these things are thrown around. Each company has their own definitions for each. So if you're here for it, there's a little bit of a grading series going on, broken up by the Chicago Collecticon. But yeah, let's dive into what we have on today. 2 years ago, I will link another video. 2 years ago-ish, I made a video called The Perfect Grading Scale. I defined what I thought was perfect. Half grades were not included in that. When CGC changed their grading scale, they made the Gem Mint 9.5 become the Gem Mint 10. Gem Mint is Gem Mint. Okay, I'm with you there. The Mint Plus, the 9.5 new and improved Mint Plus that nobody asked for, came out of nowhere. I speculated at the time that this would not be a valid grade. What I mean by valid grade, for a grade to be valid, it needs to be repeatable. It needs to be well defined. It needs to mean something. And I am going to use this video to tell you why it is not, it does not. All those things. So yeah, this is what we used to have, perfect 10, pristine 10. This is what we now have. And PSA has half grades. You might know that, you might not know that. They do not have the 9.5 half grade, but the half grades that they do have, and I'm thankful, thank you PSA for not having the additional 9.5 joke of a half grade as CGC does. And I will give BGS a little bit of leniency, and I'll tell you why in this video. But anyways, here's some actual data, not just an old man yelling at the clouds based off nothing. So, talking about last week, PSA grades easily. The highest, most common grade that PSA gives, the mode of all grades they give, is the 10. But look at this. I did not forget to put data where the 8.5, 7.5, 6.5 are. Those are great, valid. I say valid with air quotes because they're not valid. In that years ago on E4, I made an article. I made a data compilation of, there was like a 6-month stretch at PSA where they just gave out 8.5s left and right, gave them out like candy. I don't know what was up with that. But I cracked out like 50 8.5s. 0 got an 8.5 on the second go. Couple got 10s. A lot of them got 9s. Some of them got 8s. But yeah, if a grade is not repeatable, it is not valid. We can have that conversation about black labels. We can have that conversation about other things. I think the PSA 10 oftentimes is quite repeatable in that, I mean, if you choose at random any given Pokemon card in PSA's facility, odds are quite likely it's going to achieve a PSA 10, right? You look at Pokemetrics, shout out to Pokemetrics, 47.28% of all Pokemon cards receive a PSA 10. But look at this now. 0.13% get an 8.5. 0.01% give it a 7.5. What is a 7.5? If you crack 100 7.5s, there's barely 100 even out. Well, there's 1,500 out there. If you cracked all 1,500, I would bet a large amount of money that none would get a half grade again. Why are we even doing the half grades? What is going on there? Not only that, the half grades don't even exist on their website that tells you what a grade is. There's 7, 8s, 9s, and someone will say, well, it's not quite a 7 and it's not quite an 8, so it's a 7.5. I don't think they have the resolving power. I don't not think that. I know they don't have the resolving power. They don't quite have the resolving power to put cards into one of the 10 buckets consistently. Anyone who's cracked a 9 and regraded it, no one's going to ever crack a 10 really. You crack an 8, you crack a 9, you re-roll it, run it again. A lot of times numbers go up. Numbers really never go down because people aren't, well, numbers never go down from 10 is what I meant to say. There are times where people crack a 9. I mean, sometimes they damage it, they turn it into a 6, but 9s can turn into 8s. Just due to variability, right? Even if they weren't damaged on the crack, 9s can turn into 8s, but once they become a 10 was what I was trying to say. They do not go down from there because people aren't crazy. People aren't just throwing away money. But CGC or PSA doesn't even define what a half grade is on their scale. I mean, they have, maybe it's somewhere else, but from what I see here, they have half point. Okay. Cards that exhibit high-end qualities within each particular grade between PSA 2 and 9 may achieve a half-point increase, while PSA graders will evaluate all of the attributes possessed by a card in order to determine if the card may be eligible. There will be a clear focus on centering. So I made this whole rant. 5 minutes before I started recording, I read this. I did not see this. Just stop doing this. You do not have the ability to do this. You are very infrequently doing this. You mean to tell me that there are 4.3 million nearly PSA 9s and there are 1.6 million PSA 8s, and you're only giving the distinction to 18,000 cards that are an 8, but they're a really nice 8? Like, PSA actually has strong 8s, strong 7s. That's what the half grades are, I guess. I just learned that now with you. But just stop doing it. In my opinion, no one wants it. I'm not even joking when I say this. When I get an 8.5 back, I would rather have gotten an 8. I don't know any 8.5 collectors. I'm quite certain there couldn't be any PSA 6.5 collectors, given that there are only 571 cards out there. I'm not saying 571 of a specific card. Of all Pokemon cards graded, of all 14 million Pokemon cards graded, it rounds to 0%. Not even 0.1, not even 0.01. That is the refinement that they don't go to the thousands place, but they go to the hundreds place and it rounds away. So, one more bit of way to demonstrate that this new CGC 9.5. I kind of got running and ranting with PSA. You're not through CGC. I'm gonna come back to you. So this is PSA. Most common grade is a 10, which is kind of funny to me. You gotta love that participation trophy. The half grades don't exist. Make them fully not exist. Just do away with them. Here's old CGC. Here is CGC up to January 25th, 2023. Nice normal distribution. PSA grade so easy, you can't even get a bell curve. You can't even get a normal distribution centered around the most frequent grade. The most frequent grade given to a Pokemon card through January 25th, 2023 was a 9. And it was very hard. Any of those early blue label graders, you'll know what I'm talking about. The amount of 8.5s you got, the amount of 9s you got that you ended up cracking out and sending to PSA and getting a 10. You ended up sending them to CGC again under the new scale and getting a 10. You'll know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. But a nice bell curve centered around like what the mode condition is. And then new CGC became bimodal. I don't want to get too deep into population distributions, all that kind of stuff. There is no reason for me to believe. There's no reason for me to believe that the condition of a Pokemon card would have a bimodal distribution. If you start talking, one thing I almost expected to see, I almost expected on PSA to see like a shoulder at the 6th grade due to the way that they treat dense increases and things like that. But apparently not enough are seen. 6s aren't more common than 7s, which was something that I speculated. But anyways, there's nothing that leads me to believe, and especially because the former scale used to be a normal distribution, and now the new CG scale is bimodal. So what changed CGC? What changed is you inserted a fake grade. You inserted what I would call an invalid grade amongst other invalid grades that we just don't need. The 9.5 can even show you further here. So this is old CGC, every card graded through January 2023. This is CGC, all cards graded through September 2024. I subtracted one from the other just to get the cards newly graded. And yeah, this distinctly bimodal distribution where the 10 and the 9 are like bimodal. The 9 is still the mode, but the 10 is right up there with it. The 9.5 is fake. It's not real. Get rid of it. I don't know what you're doing. What are we doing here? Apparently they're still using the 8.5, but everything that I was worried about, if you go back and watch it, that video aged well, in my opinion. It was a 30-minute video. I ranted and rambled about all other kinds of things. But I said, this is fake. Where did this come from? How are you going to just grade millions of cards and then throw in some new arbitrary grade that appeared out of nowhere? Because the 9 is there. It used to exist. The 10 is there. 9.5. They created a 9.5 that is essentially a 9.25. It's refinement where we didn't need it. It's refinement where no one asked for it. And on top of that, it's refinement where they're not even using it. They've put 250,000 cards in this unfortunate bucket, but it's just not real. I very infrequently get 9.5s anymore. I'm annoyed when I do. I've not gone. It's not, usually the cards I'm grading with CGC that get 9.5s are not worthwhile to crack and re-roll again. So it's not something I've really like tested or whatever. But yeah, to me, half grades are an abomination. I think I've showed you that the grading card companies can't stay consistent with their scales, that they can't stay consistent with their supposed standards. At CGC, they call them a mint 9.5 plus. Let me focus at some for you. Is a card that displays premium eye appeal for a mint card. Qualities such as exceptional centering, surface qualities, color, or other key elements can elevate a card to a mint plus grade. They're not looking at cards long enough to do this on the first pass, let alone do it reliably, consistently, repeatably. This one might really interest some people. BGS has kind of stayed out of the target zone. I think when you do subgrades, of which most times I grade with BGS, funny enough, I don't use subgrades. I don't like subgrades overall. I don't believe in a company's ability to reliably, consistently grade a card. And when you multiply that by like 4 subgrades, I guess overall like the average might get tighter, but it's just more numbers to like be wrong on, more numbers to be inconsistent on. Shout out to Pokemon Flying Master. Many years ago, I think the video is still shown on YouTube somewhere, talking about resolving power, talking about how, like at PSA you have, I'm going to pretend that we live in a better world where half grades don't exist. At PSA you have 1 through 10. You have 10 buckets that the graders have to put cards into. Card graders have to discriminate cards and insert them into one of 10 buckets. At BGS, if you do the math, and PFM did it, I forget how many it was, but if you count every subgrade combination, if you count Black Label 10, regular 10, 9.5, quad plus 9.5, quad plus, quad regular, quad minus, if you count every combination of everything, the amount of like thousands of buckets they have at BGS to discern cards in between, it's just really silly. Realistically, when doing subgrades, which further hurts my brain, BGS will do subgrades and then they won't do subgrades. But if you get a 10 or higher, they will give you the subgrades. So it's like they're doing them, they're just not writing them down. But when they give you like a 7.5 without subgrades, what's actually happening there? Because if they give you the 4 subgrades, they are putting each card component, corners, edges, surface, and centering. They're discerning each one of those and putting them into the 10, 9.5, 9, 8.5. So instead of 10 buckets, they have like 20 buckets. Maybe it's 1 to 10 half grades all the way. But I don't know if they have a 0.5. I don't know if they have like a 1.5. And centering doesn't go that low. I think centering only goes down to 8. Too much nuance here for what I want to be a short video. But anyways, yeah, BGS will put those 4 subcomponents of a card into these buckets, and then algorithmically. So where I give a little more leniency, say you have a card, and maybe I'll be proven wrong here. Maybe I don't know their algorithm perfectly well. But if you have a card that has 2 9s and 2 10s, that will turn into a 9.5 by way of the algorithm. They will judge the centering of the card. Okay, it's a 9. I know they're not perfect with that. They will tell you 50-50, 55-45. They'll tell you 60-40, 70-30. You can do by the pixel. You can blow the image up, blow the scan up. These companies they say they're using computers to help measure the centering. The only / the most objective of any measurement. And these companies are not even consistent on those things. We've seen many, many examples. But in my video in 2 weeks, I will show you some specific examples of cards. I will show you some cards that I have in my hand, some cards that I have digitally looking at their scans that don't follow the rules here. The easy rules. Some of the rules are a lot harder, but anyways, let me when they use the words like perfect, you can't use the word perfect. That was one thing that CGC did well, getting rid of perfect. I think the idea of it in a collector's mind is good. But in reality, that word has a definition of which no Pokemon card can ever fit. So you gotta be careful with that, and I'm glad they strayed away from that. But anyways, half grades, just please stop. Please stop. Lower your amount of buckets down to about 10. I don't have faith that you can discern, and this is CGC, BGS, PSA. This is every company. I did my best to show with actual data, how they've been inconsistent over time, how they've changed over time, or how they've consistently just not utilized the features that they've allowed. If anyone wants to refute any of my assumptions, any of my things, do you think a trading card condition would follow a normal distribution? Or do you think a bimodal distribution is something that is reasonable? I can't find any logic behind it. I do not think it's reasonable. PSA, by merit of having such an easy 10, they have like half of a normal distribution. They have the right tail. There should be in some ways like a left side of that with a higher grade that would get you the other side, allow you to have the normal distribution. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Old man yelling at the clouds, but I think I did so with a little bit of backing, a little bit of basis. Maybe you are the PSA 8.5 collector out there. Maybe you are trying to collect all 571 PSA 6.5s. I graded the first edition Fossil Hollow Articuno that came out of a box as a 6.5. So it was a 6, but it was a nice 6. It was a really nice 6. Please, PSA, never bring a 9.5. And all the things I say about PSA grading too easily and this and that, I don't want them to make a harder 10. I think the worst thing they could do, I think they just need to be fine being the easy 10. I think that needs to be their brand. I think that is their brand. They're the easy 10. The other companies, however valid, however legitimate, however reproducible they are, however much the market cares about it, Black Labels, as I said last week, they care a hell of a lot for certain cards at certain times. Do they care for all of them at all times? No, absolutely not. But yeah, let me know your thoughts next week, next Monday, once my voice is back fully. Chicago Collecticon recap, had an absolute blast. Great seeing everyone that I saw there. And then 2 weeks, we will go deeper. We will go deeper down the rabbit hole of what these grading definitions are, of what a 10 is, of what a pristine 10 is, of what a Black Label pristine 10 is. We will look at the scales. We will read through them. Some people might be interested in that. Some people might not be. That will be in 2 weeks on my little grading series. But yeah, appreciate everyone watching. Hope you have a great extended holiday weekend. Post offices are closed today. So I am taking a part day probably. But yeah, I appreciate everyone watching. I will catch you all later.